If you have a mortgage, lenders require that you carry homeowners insurance. But how do you find a policy that's right for you at an affordable price? Well, KPBS reporter John Carroll has been looking into that question as part of our series, The Price of San Diego. Welcome, John.
Thanks, Maya.
So let's start with how best to find a policy that has the amount of coverage that you need. I know you talked to two experts. What did they tell you about that?
That's right. I spoke with Janet Ruiz and Carmen Balber. Ruiz is with the Insurance Information Institute, which is a nonprofit trade association supported by various insurance companies. Balber is with Consumer Watchdog. They're a nonprofit that works to protect taxpayer and consumer rights against corporate and political interests, and that includes the insurance industry. Ruiz had a couple of things to say about finding the right amount of insurance.
I always recommend check with some local builders, like what is the average price per square foot when they're building homes or when they're doing remodeling. Then you want to make sure you have the right coverages. So in the areas like this where there's a lot of wildfire risk area, you want to be sure that you have coverage for extended replacement costs and building code upgrade if you're buying an older home. And when I say older home, 80s homes are in that mix.
Some good information there. Well, cost is always a concern. Seems just about everything is more expensive here in California. What did you learn about costs here versus elsewhere in the country?
That's an interesting thing about insurance in California, including here in San Diego County. It's something that's hard to pin down because the cost for you versus me can vary widely. Here's what Carmen Balber had to say about that.
If I were to tell you insurance rates went up in California an average of 25% over the last several years, you would be hearing from irate viewers saying, my rate went up 400%. What are you talking about? That number doesn't come close to reality. And so I hesitate to pin one of those numbers on what's going on in the market just because it's hard to connect that to what an average consumer is feeling. But I can say with certainty that rates have gone up in the double digits across the state for most California homeowners, and many in San Diego County will have felt an even bigger hit because much of the county faces increased fire risk.
There are some averages to look at here, though. Ruiz said in 2020 the average annual cost of a homeowner's insurance premium in California was $1,241 versus $1,311 as an average for the rest of the country. She says in 2024 the average cost in California had risen to $1,750 compared to the national average of $1,800.
So I'm sure a lot of people watching are wondering, how do I find the best deal on a policy?
Of course, and there are a number of things you can do. First, if you live in an area where there is high risk of wildfire, insurance companies, if they agree to cover you, must offer discounts for mitigation efforts. Here's what Balber had to say about that.
So I would urge every person who's being told wildfire risk is the reason for increased costs or losing their coverage to find out how much they could reduce those costs or if it might qualify them if they took steps to make their home more fire safe. Insurance companies aren't recognizing those efforts to scale, and they're not doing enough of it, but there are pockets of opportunity out there if you do wildfire mitigation to save some money. And of course, it does reduce the risk your home burns down.
And here's what Ruiz had to say on that topic.
If you have higher deductibles, you're going to have lower premiums. So that's always one of the one ways you can save money on your insurance premium. Two, find out what the discounts are. So if you have an alarm system, a sprinkler system, if you're near a fire department, if your home has wildfire resistant siding and a good roof, and you have your vents covered, all those things can come into play to give you discounts.
Two more things on that. If you're going to go with higher deductibles, Ruiz recommends having a rainy day fund to pay those deductibles. She also says some carriers offer military discounts.
So, John, what is ahead for homeowners insurance here in San Diego County? Is there anything in the works that could lead to price stabilization or even lower costs?
Kind of. Both Ruiz and Balber said the situation with homeowners insurance could improve this year, but they said that both for very different reasons. Ruiz said since January, more companies have been writing more policies in California because, she said, the state has allowed them to charge what she called correct premiums. She said we are likely to see a slow transition toward improved market stability by mid-2026. New state regulations allow insurers to use forward-looking catastrophe modeling to set rates, which may encourage providers to return to the market in exchange for raising premiums. Balber pointed to legislation Consumer Watchdog is sponsoring this year with a group of wildfire survivors called the Every Fire Survivors Network. She said the bill would require insurance companies to cover you if you meet state fire safety guidelines. Lots of stuff, Maya.
Lots of stuff. We really appreciate it, John. Thank you. And this story is part of our Price of San Diego series. We have more cost of living stories about everything from rising gas prices to saving money on live sports events and concerts. It's all at kpbs.org/Price of San Diego.